One is wondering, why is the price of Bitcoin not rallying? Aren't we supposed to be in a bull market? Everyone's confused right now because ETFs are buying billions and individual treasury companies are buying 60,000 Bitcoins in one raise. And yet the Bitcoin price is going sideways. So let's dive into a lot of the recent news right now, and then we'll come back and explain why we think you only have about 33 days left before the bull run takes off. Of course, I'm not here alone. We have Nico sitting here in the co-chair, and we brought on our good friend Adam O'Brien, CEO, founder of Bitcoin Well. You guys have been asking about Bitcoin Well in the chat recently, so I brought on Adam today with us. Anyways, let's get into the news story. So I do want to start here with, of course, just an update on the ETFs. For a while there, the ETFs was all the rage. It was all the news going out. Now it's kind of old news. Everyone's kind of tired of this. This is where the paper Bitcoin summer meme has originated from, is the ETFs. And then, of course, the Bitcoin treasury companies as well has piled on to the memetics of Bitcoin summer, paper Bitcoin summer. So looking at this, of course, guys, look at entities holding Bitcoin. 44 of them are ETFs and other funds. We have 177 public companies, and then governments and private companies and exchanges. And of course, the most important number here is individuals. But look at this total number here, guys, of how much Bitcoin is being held by exchanges, private companies, governments, public companies, and of course ETFs. That's 3.68 million Bitcoin. It is continuously going up, with ETFs holding about almost 1.5 million Bitcoin. They're scooping up so much coin right now. It's absolutely insane. And then going into the data a little here, guys, there's a clear winner. And of course, for better or worse, probably for us, the view is more that it's worse. iShares Bitcoin Trust, the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, currently holds 3.56% of total Bitcoin. Again, I brought this number up the other day. Saylor and Larry Fink hold about 6.5% of the total Bitcoin that will ever be created, which is absolutely insane. I'm sure we will chat about this a little bit later because I think there is some implications here. And then following behind is Fidelity. And Fidelity here is probably the ETF. If you are going to buy an ETF, I would say you should probably be putting your money in the Fidelity one, though maybe the iShares one is having a little better returns here, but they are almost at about 1% of the total Bitcoin that will ever be created. So that's just a general overview of the ETFs, but interesting news. I did touch on this yesterday of just how much buying is coming into the space. And shouts out to David Bailey of Bitcoin Inc. and the merger with Kindly MD, aka Nakamoto, the Bitcoin treasury company. They just announced a $5 billion ATM, or at the market equity offering program. Again, guys, $5 billion that is going to find its way to buy Bitcoin. Remember, Saylor has been getting a lot of flack. I actually saw another article this morning from Bloomberg essentially saying, I forget the headline exactly, but it was something like Saylor's in a lot of heat right now Saylor is in a lot of heat as the market revolts against him, or investors revolt against him while strategy starts, slagging right now. So there's a lot of heat. And you guys know my tinfoil hat theory on this is Wall Street, the institutions, they do not want to give Saylor the credit that he deserves here. And you guys have been trolling us, calling us simply Saylor for a while, but hey, he's made some genius moves in the market right now. So it's not only just Saylor raising billions of dollars now to buy Bitcoin. Of course, Nakamoto just announced one. We have 21 Capital. They're also doing the very same thing. So there is a lot of capital, a lot of fiat coming into the market. Of course, a lot of this hasn't been deployed yet, but it is going to increase the floor here in the Bitcoin market. And it is going to get a lot more interesting considering that we are entering into Q3, Q4 of the year, which is historically the best returns in Bitcoin. And of course, we have nation states now being exposed for holding Bitcoin. And then we have even more nation state proposals for creating Bitcoin strategic reserves. Thailand's ex-prime minister just endorsed a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the long-term resilience of Thailand's financial system. And then we also have South Korea's first institutional Bitcoin treasury launched by BitPlanet. It is getting intense out there for the accumulation of Bitcoin. And I've been kind of showing these numbers here on the show for a while, and I was looking for this chart and I can't find it for some reason. I forget what the framing was, but institutions are eating retail's lunch right now, guys. Like, institutions are scooping up Bitcoin, dwarfing what individuals are doing right now, because a lot of individuals are selling coin right now. Again, we've been covering the amount of coins moving to the exchanges from OGs, from people that bought Bitcoin at, like, under $10. It's been hundreds of thousands of coins. There's a lot of coin moving to the exchanges. But one more interesting little metric before I wrap up and bring you guys why I think we are going to start ripping. There was an interesting announcement coming out from JP Morgan, which I think will lead to this idea that we might be seeing some changes in the price structure of Bitcoin here. We might be in an elongated Bitcoin bull market. A lot of people have been saying, I'm not one of them because, I don't like saying this, but I do say it. We might be seeing a hyper Bitcoinization moment, eternal September moment here, where we don't get any bear market. So the headline here is Bitcoin is undervalued versus gold as volatility collapses, JP Morgan says. Jamie Dimon, whether this is Jamie Dimon himself, but his analysts out here at JP Morgan and Chase are essentially saying what we've been saying on this show for a long time. Historically, Bitcoin critics now are becoming Bitcoin bulls. How should this make us feel? Anyways, just to read the headline here, Bitcoin is trading too cheap relative to gold as its volatility falls to historic lows, says JP Morgan in their recent research report that just dropped. The bank highlighted that Bitcoin's 6 months rolling volatility has dropped from nearly 60% at the start of the year to about 30% today, the lowest on record. And with volatility converging toward gold, the world's largest crypto, Bitcoin, now only twice as volatile. It's the lowest ratio on record. So, guys, I don't know what is going on here. I'm actually going to pass it over to Adam here. Look, Adam, you've been in the game a little longer than Nico and I have. What is going on here? Like, should we be getting the heebie-jeebies right now because everyone's embracing us? Like, I've been posing the question, like, are we being co-opted, or is this what winning feels like? And we've just been perpetual underdogs for so long that when we start winning, we start feeling weird about it. But everyone seems to be embracing the idea of Bitcoin. So what's your take on all this stuff, Adam?
Yeah, man, it's like we're Rocky Balboa trying to, figure out what it's like to go into a fight, as the favorite. When you're reading those numbers, I was just overcome with this sense of how ridiculous the fiat market is and just how fake all those numbers seem. Like, oh, we raised 5 billion, we've got a few trillion going out over here. It's just hilarious at how the world is still trying to figure out what the heck a sound money asset and a real hard money asset actually looks like, because we've been living in this, fake fiat economy for, the better part of 3 generations at this point. And it makes me very, very, I've got my spidey senses up when all the people who were calling us drug dealers and criminals and bad people, like, even a couple of years ago, and even today, and lots of the problems that we're going to talk about with Bitcoin Well stem from Operation Choke Point, which is still alive and well, by the way. And so out of one side of their mouth, they've got Operation Choke Point going on. You can't spend your money to buy Bitcoin, but they're going to spend all your money and buy some Bitcoin instead. And so it definitely feels like I almost wonder if the overlords understand that they are about to lose control. And at first they fought it, thinking, no, we want to keep control. And now they're like, okay, well, if we're going to lose control, we're going to manipulate the crap out of the market for as long as possible so we can accumulate as much of that control and maintain as much of that control as we possibly can. When I see that 2 people hold 6% of the total supply of what will eventually be the world's entire economic value, that's pretty scary. That's pretty insane. That's a lot of power that they're able to get. And I think we've said it on the show before. And if we haven't, then, it's been said elsewhere, like, whoever prints the most fiat to buy the most corn is going to win. And it seems like Saylor and the governments are figuring that out in real time.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the signal here. It's like, are they figuring this out? Do they see what we've been seeing, or are they just here for the, the gains? But
It's
I've been
like,
saying for a
yo, the
while.
guys with the bazooka figured out where the trigger is, and they're going ham.
I mean, I've been saying it kind of in a joking way, but I really do mean it. Like the very people that are in control of the money here, the very people that Bitcoin was designed to kind of disintermediate, if they see what we see, then they probably need Bitcoin just as much as anyone else because they have a lot more to lose. And it seems like that is catching on right now, which again makes us feel a little weird here because like we have been the underdog for so long that now that they embrace us, we are like, man, are we actually doing what we think we're doing? What is going on here?
Stay humble, stack sats, baby. That's all you can do. All anyone can do, and get it into self-custody. My goodness, if you're joining the honeypot of Coinbase, like, I don't know why we've got different percentages on that sheet. It's all just sitting in Coinbase. 90% of that, 3% is just sitting with Brian Armstrong and the cronies. So like, get it out of there. Don't join the honeypot, and at least decentralize your wealth a little bit, because that's going to be a pretty heroic 6102 or whatever it ends up being. That's I think going to happen in the lifetime here.
And Nico, I do want to pass it to you, but Adam, I know you're in Canada here, but I don't know if you've been hearing the stuff going on in the U.S. about the U.S. government potentially taking stakes in public companies now.
Yeah.
Like this was a far-fetched idea for a while amongst Bitcoiners. Now it seems to be on the horizon. So
dude, I think I tweeted. I quote tweeted that. I was like, oh, I wonder who could have seen that coming. Like, guys, it's the same thing. 6102 was exactly, we will pay you for your gold in fair market value. And then magically the next year, the gold doubled. Like, this is classic manipulation. Don't fall for it. Don't give up your generational wealth. Just keep it in self-custody, buy a good hardware wallet, set up a duress pin. Like, just, it's novel and it's simple, but not easy. And I think that Bitcoiners, we've kind of been training ourselves to take the hard path. We've been training ourselves to do the hard thing, to be the underdog. And now it's moving from the Bitcoin is real underdog towards the, my security is valid underdog. And you're going to have a bunch of grifters convince you to, try to leave your Bitcoin with someone else and try to, not take self-custody and to outsource the responsibility. But I think historically speaking, we've seen that movie too many times, and we can be smarter. We can be the generation that actually changes and flips the script.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Anyways, Nico, what's your thoughts on all this? I already know what Nico's going to say. He's going to be a bear here. So, maybe we ignore him.
Well, first of all, yeah, this year has been absolutely gnarly in terms of news. Like, me and Opti always have something to talk about. Like, I remember we were literally losing our minds in January. Like, Operation Choke Point 2.0 is over. That's not true. The government's gonna pump our bags to $500,000. That's not true. Oh, we're gonna get the Bitcoin Act 2.0. It's gonna be introduced. That hasn't happened yet, but we got the Genius Act. So yeah, I mean, stay with quiz. It's kind of interesting. Like, we've spent this entire year. If you look at Bitcoin historically, I've been saying this the last couple of weeks. The year after the halving tends to be the parabola year. Right, so it tends to be the year that Bitcoin explodes to the moon. We still have Q4 left. This is why we literally put it on the thumbnail. You have 33 days of Bitcoin follows its historical patterns. We will have an explosive end of the year. But if we don't, we're kind of in uncharted territory. And I want to kind of double back on a point that Adam was making, because very astute, right? This idea that Larry Fink and Michael Saylor, if you combine both their stacks, right? The BlackRock stack and the Michael Saylor stack makes up 6%, but Adam buried the lead. Coinbase holds all of that Bitcoin. And not only that, all the ETFs hold the Bitcoin with Coinbase. And I've heard a rumor.
Except for Fidelity.
Except for Fidelity. Fidelity is the only one that does it, that actually does the custody thing. And I also heard a rumor that Brian Armstrong, the way that he actually deals with custodies, he has a ledger next to his nightstand and he keeps all the Bitcoin there. right? So it's probably not a good idea. But if you look at the historical precedent from and I think, Adam, you have that in your background. So I'm going to make that, right
there, man. This is the 6102.
So like, this is the same steps that have happened, right? And like, guys, like, think about this for a second, right? Like, if you're the US government, you heard Scott Besson on TV the other day, right? And he kind of slipped up, and then he walked it back once he got tapped on the shoulder by donors and all that stuff. But he said, he's like, listen, like, we're the United States, we're going to acquire Bitcoin. This confiscated Bitcoin is fantastic, right? It's great. We're going to hold on to it. And maybe there's a bit of a Freudian slip there, but the part that I want to focus on is, like, why does the U.S. government have to buy the Bitcoin if Michael Saylor and Larry Fink is doing the buying on their behalf? And then when they find themselves in a pickle, when they when they blow up the financial system because of the unsustainable fiscal trajectory, then you get the 6102 order 2.0, right? So it's a lot easier to just not buy and then wait for the thing to blow up and then, then seize all the Bitcoin. So I think it's never been as important as it is today to take self-custody of your Bitcoin, to learn to take that personal responsibility and the sovereignty that comes with it. And I completely agree with Adam when he makes the case that I think we're going to see this in our lifetime, because I think it's inevitable with all the countries that are just printing an ungodly amount of fiat. If you look at the definition of what hyperinflation is, the only definition is there's a mass. People en masse lose confidence in the money. It's not how much money they print. It's a psychological thing. All of a sudden, overnight, people are just like, wait a second, this is worthless. And then all of a sudden, all simultaneously, they all try to take their cash out of the bank and they all try to buy goods. They all try to buy sound assets just to maintain their purchasing power. And with the amount of money that they're printing, like, are we going to see that in our lifetimes? And you know what the first thing the government does when that type of event happens? They seize sound money, right? They seize the gold. They seize, there was gold back then. Now it's Bitcoin. And the only reason that they were able to get away with that back in the 1930s is because of the centralization of the custody of gold. Because gold is very heavy, its physical characteristics. If you had a lot of gold, you probably put it in a bank. So the government literally only had to knock on the door of a handful of banks to say, hey, that gold belongs to me. Do you see the resemblance here, right? Except it's not a handful of banks anymore. It's literally, you just have to knock on the door of Brian Armstrong and say, hey, we want the ledger in your nightstand and the pen, and we'll leave you alone. Thank you very much. Like, oh, and by the way, we're going to give you this nice paper money in return, and you're not going to go to jail. Like, of course he's going to take that deal, right? It's a lot harder if you have this like kind of mass consciousness where people push back and they say, hey, you know what? It's a lot harder to convince 2 million people or 3 million people or 5 million people to give up their sound money in return for paper, right? Anyways, this is a special edition because we got the CEO and founder of Bitcoin Well joining us on the show today. And I do want to highlight some comments that were dropped. Opti, if you want to pull them up, please, por favor.
Yeah. Adam wants to respond to Skip on down the road here. So let's start there.
Oh, yeah. Yo, Skip. Okay, this is such a good take here. So what this highlights, I think, is a systemic and a high time preference society. And so, there's the straight seizure, and then there's going to be a period of time where Bitcoiners are treated like the kings and queens that we are. And I think that we need to be alert in what's going on there. Because if you'll remember, 100 years ago, they paid more than what gold was worth. And I think that this comment wraps up the high time preference type of behavior that we have to be on the watch out for. You were going to get more than face value. And so you could have spent that gold on other things or spent that paper on other things. And what I think is going to happen here, and just kind of to round out the segment about like, the confiscation or whatever's coming down the line, is that if and when the government comes to us and says, hey, Bitcoiners, you've been holding your corn for the next X, sell it back to us and we will not charge capital gains. Sell it back to us and we will not, we'll give you a premium. Sell it back to us, give it to us, and we will, treat you in this way for this short period of time. Every single human being on earth is worse off in 2025 because they stole the gold in 1933. 1933 led to 1971. 1971 led to 2001. 2001 led to 2008. 2008 led to 2022, and 2022 led to today. This has been one big, giant playbook in the making. And if in 2025 or 2035 or whenever it happens, we fumble the ball and we take the high time preference road for paper gains, we will be cooked in 2050. We will be cooked in 2075. And I really want to ring that alarm bell that, this feeling that we have of hey, they're on our team all of a sudden. Be wary and don't give up what is right, which is self-custody, and you need to continue to control your Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also,
Amen.
can we
Amen to
acknowledge?
that.
Can we acknowledge the fact that Adam's speaking in Zoomer finally?
Come on,
we got
Opti
him.
taught
We
me.
got him. Opti taught me how to speak in Zoomer. All right. I do want to give the people what they're probably asking. Why is this 33 days? Nico did mention it earlier, but let's pull up the charts here and then we'll wrap this up. So here's Bitcoin's monthly returns, kind of the seasonality of Bitcoin. Obviously, here we were mentioning this a few weeks ago, I think a week ago, of how usually Q3, Q4 are historically the most bullish times in Bitcoin. Well, August is kind of rounding out exactly as we probably imagined it. It's a red month. It's down 2%. Not that bad, realistically speaking. And then September is kind of a throw up. It will, probably have a red September here, but it could potentially be a bullish green month here. But then we really get into the time when it's the funnest time in Bitcoin, which is, of course, October, aka October, and November. And then December is when maybe things start to cool down here. So probably have maybe not so bullish September here, which is, the next 30 days. And then going into October, we will start ripping. And actually, while I was looking for this, I saw TradingView had this interesting chart here. And I think this lays it out very well. We're right here. We're right here in the middle, September. Historically, it's kind of going to go sideways, maybe down a little bit. And then October starts coming, guys, and we are going to the moon. So I'm hoping that this plays out here. I hope that this is, what we're doing right now. And then, of course, in past cycles, Bitcoin marked a major low in September and then rallied for 2 to 3 months in Q4. So this is where we think the price is probably going. I would lean into the idea that September is probably not going to be the best month here for returns, guys, but this just means you get Bitcoin on discount. But you better believe that if you have fiat on the sideline, you need to get in touch with the Infinite Well team and get it in by October, because October is when things are going to get crazy, in my opinion. And the end of the year, it should be a really, really, green Christmas here. We're going to be seeing green candles going into Christmas. At least that's what I hope here.
I think I just heard Opti calling for 500K Bitcoin by white paper day. Is that what I heard?
I totally said that. Anyways, Adam, again, you've been here for a while. Though our data points are very thin, 4 cycles roughly. Of course, the past doesn't really repeat. We can't really hang our hat on what Bitcoin has done in the past, considering things are changing. We are in seemingly a new paradigm here. But how much credence do you give to this seasonality of Bitcoin, since you've seen a couple more seasons than I have?
Yeah, man, this is probably the first time where I'm questioning whether or not this kind of 4-year epoch cycle is going to be broken. I think that this time next year, we're going to know. It's going to be pretty apparent whether or not, we continue to have these 4-year pretty predictable cycles, or, as the halving gets less and less dramatic, and as we have more and more stable demand. I mean, isn't this basic economics 101 that we just kind of have more stability? We have volatility marking kind of near or at all-time lows. So I would probably not be opposed to some, less boom bust and kind of more the promise of sound money is that we kind of eliminate lots of the boom bust. We have more stability. We have more opportunity to spend time, to think, to innovate, and to ultimately like maintain our wealth for generations. The problem is getting to that point requires a ton of volatility. And of course, the ones that wait it out are the ones that are most rewarded. And so, yeah, I think that the writing is, or the story is about to be written. I personally subscribe to a Q4 bull. You know, every single time I count Bitcoin out in Q4, it just rips. And so maybe I'm pulling a Jim Cramer here, and the exact opposite will happen. But I remember, and I've been going through phone, like old pictures and stuff, finding old, like, you know, pics of the kids and stuff like this. And I remember, you know, screenshotting like Bitcoin was $1,000 in October, and then it was $3,000 2 weeks later, and then it was $14,000, you know, 4 weeks later. And that happened really, really suddenly, and almost like blink and you'll miss it. And then of course, you know, you have some kind of collapse, like a major custodian collapse is usually what does it, what kicks it in for the cycle. And then, you know, we head into winter and we're there for like 1,000 days. And so I think that we're in for a pretty serious, they have to print, right? I think the printer is going to be humming very, very quickly. And when they print, you know, all that new money kind of just flows to the hardest asset. And it's not real estate. It's not gold. It's not stocks. It's not bonds. It's Bitcoin. So buckle up. It's going to be interesting.
Amen.
Yeah, let's not get the Bears take, because Nico's going to be like, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what's going on.
Guys, I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. We have over 1,000 people watching live on X, 520 people watching live on YouTube, and over 100 people watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps us with the algos. I just kind of want to pull this up and show you guys my stuff going into this year. So this is one from one of my favorite movies. They've made a couple remakes so far. I think it's very fitting to Bitcoin. The name of the movie is called All Quiet on the Western Front, right? And very excited when the soldiers, you know, they volunteered for the war, right? This is how I felt in the beginning of the year. This is exactly where I'm at right now. After all the price action, after everything that we've gone through, this is how my face is. But if Adam and Opti are right, and I'm, by the way, I'm leaning in that direction too, I'll be back here. And then in 2026, I'll be back here again. But this is Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin. This is what you signed up for. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. So much stuff to cover. We have a clip from Tucker Carlson. Was Bitcoin invented by the CIA? I can't even, a three-letter agency. And then we got Balaji at BTC Asia. He's dropping some clips. And then, of course, we have a special edition culture segment where we have the CEO and founder of the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com, Adam O'Brien in the house, and he's going to be answering some questions about the platform. So guys, you're going to want to stay tuned. We have lots to cover. But you guys know the deal. Simply Bitcoin is powered by our partners, and we're very picky on who we choose to partner with. I want to give a very special shout out to our lead partner, bitcoinwell.com. It's the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Why do I say that? Because it's the only on-ramp in the United States and Canada, I believe, that is automatic self-custody. What does that mean, Nico? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, they go straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos, because after all, self-custody is the revolution. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, you have to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. It's a white glove service tailored for family offices, trusts, organizations, or if you're a very rich person. And you can schedule a call, and the Bitcoin Well Infinite team will take care of you. You can call them, you can text them anytime you want to buy Bitcoin, and within 24 hours, that Bitcoin that you bought goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. What are you waiting for? Go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC, and you're going to want to stay tuned to the end of the show where we will be giving away some sats with the Bitcoin wishing well. All right, everybody, let's start the show. We have tons to cover. We will be right back in just a second, or a couple seconds, like 30 seconds. We'll be right back. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure?
Are your seed phrases really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All right, everybody, we are back. Guys, at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $112,320. Block height, 912,118. Sats per dollar, 890. Market cap, 2.24 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 9.3%. Decline from all-time high, negative 9.8%. That's right. If you're buying Bitcoin right now, you're getting it at a 10% discount. So pause the show right now. Go to Bitcoin Well and stack some sats. You're getting Bitcoin at a 10% discount. That's fantastic. That's a great deal. Realized monetary inflation. Bitcoin continues to take fiat currencies to absolute school. Currently sitting at 0.84%. The Federal Reserve just admitted that they're not going back to 2%. They're going to 3%, right? So Bitcoin is, and that number is just going to keep going down. I think when me and Opti started covering that number, it was like 1 point something. I don't know. It was a lot higher.
Oh, it's
anyways,
3 point something.
Oh, it's 3 point something. Look at that. So anyways, here is Balaji. And here, should I play? I'm wondering which clip I should play. You know what? I'm gonna play the Tucker clip. All right, everybody. We're gonna refer to a lot of these agencies as three-letter agencies, and YouTube. We love you guys, and yeah. Anyways, I mean, this podcast blew up. Tucker had this gentleman, I think his name is Daniel. I don't know the last name. This podcast blew up. He said a lot of thank you, Opti. He said a lot of things that were outside of the Overton window, but that clip specifically applies to, of course, Simply Bitcoin, right? And he's making the case that, look, like, you know, Bitcoin might have been invented by by the government itself. I don't believe that, but he buried the lead, which we were talking about in the beginning of the show. It's literally the same exact topic. Are they going to allow Bitcoin to succeed? And my response to that is, I think they're going to try to stop it, but this is why self-custody is important. Because if you have millions upon millions, let's say you have 20% of the population taking Bitcoin into self-custody, right? And look at the United States with the Second Amendment, more guns than there is people. That's going to be a very difficult thing to convince people to hand over sound money for paper, right? Again, this is why self-custody is important. This is why, you know, learning how to regain your sovereignty is important. This is why learning how to use a hardware wallet is important. Because when that day, and I think we're all in agreement here, inevitably comes, you know, you have your Bitcoin and then it's like, oh, I lost it. It's a boating accident. I don't know. Or you move to a more favorable jurisdiction. We have a beachhead in a nation state, meaning the men with guns will protect Bitcoiners. And that country, of course, is El Salvador, right? So we are making progress. But I think eventually, you know, when more and more people lose confidence in fiat and seek refuge in Bitcoin, I think eventually there is going to be some type of clash. And I think that's what that gentleman was talking about. Adam, what's your take on all this, brother?
Yeah, man, I think that if I was a three-letter agency, I would want to design something like Bitcoin, but I'd want a backdoor. I'd want to be able to control it. And I don't know that, like, I haven't found it. I think there's been lots of people trying to find the backdoor into Bitcoin for a long time. And so if they are Satoshi, then thanks, guys, but you did a good thing and not the bad things you usually do. I think that the protocol, how it works, how it's designed, you know, how it can fork. Like I just don't see how anyone can capture control involuntarily in Bitcoin other than the economic ways that they've done time and time again. This, you know, this same argument, it sounds so dumb when you're like, oh, you know, this three-letter agency created gold and they're the ones, and they're gonna take control of gold. People would be like, how do you take control of gold? Like, you can't do that other than coercing and forcing people to give you their gold. And I think Bitcoin's in the exact same way. And we have to be smarter this time around. You know, 4 or 5 generations later, we have to be smarter that we are not going to give up our sound money when the men with guns come and ask for it. And so I just don't, people that talk like this it's evidence that you don't understand like how the Bitcoin protocol works. They've obviously never set up a Bitcoin wallet. They don't run a node. They don't mine Bitcoin. Like, when you participate in the ecosystem like that, you just really understand how good Bitcoin is, how safe Bitcoin is, and how censorship resistant Bitcoin is. It's easy to look at digital payments as a fiat payment because the only digital payment we've ever known have been censorship heavy, centralized payments. And Bitcoin is the complete opposite of that. And so it's just not a viable, this is just FUD. This is like high quality FUD, where before we looked at Warren Buffett as like the FUD master, you know, and we looked at all these guys and we're like, oh, these guys are buffoons. This argument is just modern day FUD, and it just doesn't last.
Absolutely. I agree with you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call an audible here. We're going to do a special edition of Simply Bitcoin. We're going to keep this rolling. I want to take advantage of the fact that Adam O'Brien is joining us on the show today. We've been getting many comments asking about Bitcoin Well, and you literally have the man that built Bitcoin Well in front of you. So drop your questions in the comments, and we'll also address some comments that were talked about in the past as well. So Opti, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Are we switching?
No. We're going to keep it going.
Oh, we're going to do it right now.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
all righty then. I thought we were going to hit a transition here. Okay, my bad. I was waiting for the transition. All right, yeah. So Adam does have a hard stop here, but guys, I want, like, as I was saying earlier, you guys have been hitting us up in the chat for the last couple of weeks about Bitcoin Well. And I reached out to Adam, and he was like, dude, feed me all the feedback. I want to hit it head on. And then we were chatting yesterday, and he's like, dude, why don't I just come on the show? And I'm like, all right, perfect. Like, we got we have an open guest slot tomorrow. Let's get you on. And that's today. So there is a few things. Adam, I don't know which one should we start with? Actually, let's start with the big one. The one we were talking about yesterday. So I forget who it was in the chat, but someone keeps mentioning some like limit order error that you guys are getting on Bitcoin Well. And then Adam, you're like, yeah, man, we're getting some fuckery with the banks here. So let's explain this, and then you know, let people know what's going on.
Okay, so the full big picture across the limits at Bitcoin Well is there's kind of 2 different types of limits. There's like an early or like a new customer limit, and then there's like an existing or a good customer limit. The reason we have to do that is because over the last couple of months, we've experienced hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fraud. And now the banking system in the USA, I thought the banking system in Canada was bad. Somehow the banking system in the USA is worse. I didn't think that was possible. That's like the Canadian banking system is a dumpster fire, and somehow the American banking system is a dumpster fire on steroids. And so dealing with that has been interesting and a learning curve for us. Basically, what bad actors have been doing is they've been just like recalling or charging back those transactions. Of course, we're self-custody platform, so we send the Bitcoin right away. And then these bad people are just calling the money back. It's fraudulent. We're losing money. It's like, it's all just a bad thing. And so to prevent that, we've got these kind of lower limits. You know, one of the options was just hold the Bitcoin. I'm against that, obviously. And so it's lowering the limits, which obviously makes the customer experience worse. And we're working on fixing that over the long term. But those 2 things are kind of what set the stage for this. Then inside those 2 new limits, where they're already pretty low, $2,000 a week and $10,000 in your first month type of limits. But even outside of that, we're now seeing the banks. So when we pull money out of the bank account to facilitate the order, the bank looks at that transaction and they pass it off to this third party that's called Radar. And what Radar does is they investigate randomly for fraud. And so if Radar, this third-party system, which is part of the whole banking environment, if Radar determines that payment is or could be fraudulent, then they just arbitrarily nuke the payment. And so and then we get back from the bank that this payment failed, and then we obviously have to send that to the customer and say, hey, the payment didn't go through. Now, this part's on our end. Our communication and the way that we handle that error needs to be improved, and so we're handling that right now. But the crux and like the root issue is kind of out of our control, which is super, super frustrating, because I love it when there's an issue that I just get to fix. But right now we're working on ways to not circumvent the Radar and not circumvent this, like, arbitrary banking fraud protection measure, but find ways to work within it that enables the customer experience. And so what we found that helps is just doing multiple smaller payments. So instead of doing one $1,500 payment, do 3 $500 payments, for example, or do one every day for $500. So that's been working really good. The thing that's also been working better is funding an account balance and then drawing out of that account balance. But both those things admittedly take more time and more effort on the customer. And so what we're moving towards right now, and we're actively building and is hopefully a few weeks away, is this ability to push payments to Bitcoin Well. Because when you authorize the push payment out of your bank, so you'd log into your bank, you enter in your Bitcoin Well banking details, and then you'd send the payments there. That's faster. So for some banks, that'll be instant. And for other banks, it'll be 1 business day compared to the 3 business day thing that we've been working within right now. But also we'll be able to increase those limits because there's less chance of fraud. And so we can kind of paint, we can paint a broader stroke with the brush to help that. So, classic Bitcoin here, and classic, when you have a team of Bitcoiners, like, you're just able to take aligned incentives. Like, guys, in no way are we like, let's lower the limits and piss all of our customers off. Like, that would be very bad business. We are getting, completely cock blocked by the bank here. And so finding ways to understand, work within, and then innovate inside the banking environment is kind of what this team has been good at in Canada. And we're putting that same energy towards the US. And so all this to say, what was the hardship, and thank you to everyone who's been commenting and like talking to us and saying, hey, this got to get fixed. Like, this could be better. Like, you guys have known, if you've been watching the show for a while, you know that I love building in public. I love the feedback. I've got thick skin. You're not going to hurt my feelings. When I get a DM with meaningful feedback, it goes straight to the team, and we workshop and we fix it. This is how we built. This is how we've always built Bitcoin Well. This is no different. And so super, super pumped to be able to do this. And what's going to come from this is higher limits, which are faster and which are going to ultimately improve the customer experience. And so I think that, super, super pumped on that. We really appreciate your patience. And again, once again, you guys, this is the importance of being, as a Bitcoiner in this early stage. This is why I urge you to use a platform that aligns with your ethos. If we did not have you group of early adopters that were willing to overcome the pain points and help us build in public, we would not be able to survive. It would literally not, like, we are still losing incredible amounts of money in the USA. It is not profitable for Bitcoin Well to operate this very specific business segment in the USA. But we do it because we know it's the right thing. We do it because we know that at scale it will be. And when you don't hold customer funds, when you try to get funds into Bitcoin wallets, when you try to get Bitcoin into wallets as fast as possible, and you try to maintain the lowest spread in the country, there's just time. And so it's because of you group of early adopters that we're able to do this. And so this is why I urge you and I thank you for using a platform that aligns with your ethos, that aligns with your understanding of how important self-custody is, and why supporting a non-custodial Bitcoin platform like Bitcoin Well is so, so crucial to the mission. So thank you guys so much. And look forward to faster payments coming into Bitcoin Well. And I'm running this, Opti, so this is my show now, and thank you very much. But payments leaving Bitcoin Well are like virtually instant if your bank supports what's called RTP, real-time payments. And so we've built it in such a way where if you go to sell your Bitcoin, which you should be doing if you're spending Bitcoin, if you have fiat on the side, are you even a Bitcoiner? So when you go to sell your Bitcoin, because you need to use the funds to pay rent, to buy groceries, to go on a trip, to buy a car, whatever it's going to be, you can generate a Lightning invoice or, of course, make the payment on chain. With Lightning, the millisecond that our node receives the Lightning invoice, a payment is triggered, and that payment, I use this to pay some of our team. I use this to pay some of the people that work directly with me, and it's like minutes. Within minutes, there is fiat in their bank account ready to rock. So that's been super cool. We want to bring that same speed and that same action into the reverse, which of course the reverse is a lot more exciting. If you can just send money and receive Bitcoin into your Lightning wallet or into your personal Bitcoin wallet immediately, that's like way better. What we found is lots of banks don't support or support a weird version of this real-time payments network. And it's just been a disaster to try to figure out. But as always, the team's been cooking. And yeah, I think we're on the right track, on the right path. And again, like the patience and the love from this community, it's just like overwhelming, and it's so good. And so, yeah, thank you for sticking it out with us. Thank you for being that early adopter for this platform and for making our platform better. Your grandchildren will thank you when the default, like people should be floored in the future. They're like, why would anyone ever use a custodial exchange? Why were people not taking self-custody of Bitcoin? Why did exchanges even have to post proof of reserves? Why would anyone have proof of reserves when they can just take the Bitcoin themselves? And that's the world that I want to get to. And all of you guys helping us build that, that's the world that we're moving towards. So thank you all so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I admire about you guys specifically, Adam, is, and I've told you this, I think every single time we've had a conversation, either in an interview or you come on Simply Bitcoin, and for anyone who's tuning in, what differentiates Bitcoin well from a lot of other on-ramps is that they're a non-custodial exchange. So the TLDR of what that means, if you guys are just tuning in, you don't understand. It means that when you buy Bitcoin on the platform, they don't hold your Bitcoin. You can't even leave it on there. So when the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody wallet address, which forces you to learn self-custody. Building a business around that model is very difficult because it's a lot easier to just, you have a much wider net, you could say, right? Because people want convenience. People don't want to take that sovereignty. But if you build it in a way where you create an incentive structure where you're essentially incentivizing people to buy Bitcoin because you can't just leave it on the exchange, that's, kind of tying in and weaving in all the points that we've been making throughout the show. That's how we get to the world we want to live in. That's how we get to the world we want our kids to live in, right? That's the only way. It's through self-custody. So, Adam, I really admire that you guys have taken the narrow path in building the exchange, building the on-ramp the way that you guys have done, because it's the correct way. It's the right way. And the correct way and the right way is usually the hard way, right? So.
Yo.
All right, Adam, the other thing we got to hit, people have been yelling at me about it. I've been bringing you the messages. I've been your customer support, is address the customer service, the customer support stuff. I think the chat's been angry at me about it. And I'm like, guys, I work at Simply Bitcoin. I'll talk to Adam about Bitcoin well. So will you hit that?
Man, this is just straight up an area we have to improve. There are 3 options when you scale a service like Bitcoin well internationally. One is you outsource to, India or one of the other popular spots. 2 is you like AI chatbot it. Or 3 is you hire, doing it internally. I don't want to outsource. I don't want to create you don't want quick response times. What you want is quick and good response times. And, think about how many people are watching this show. There's thousands of people watching this show. I'd say probably less than 10%, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, less than 10% actually run a node, and less than half of that, of the chat, of the people watching, could, comfortably explain self-custody. And so when we're trying to find qualified individuals to handle the customers, that's a low time preference build for us. We want to make sure that the person in the chair can answer these questions correctly. I don't want some AI chatbot or some doofus on the other side of the planet who doesn't know anything about Bitcoin, who can't functionally teach you and educate you. Like, we see our customer success team as a group of people that is going to be educating, our entire customer base about Bitcoin and helping them with self-custody. Like, we do a lot more support around helping people, take Bitcoin into self-custody than we do about using the platform, just because of the nature of the business. And so it's a higher bar for hiring, it's a higher cost for hiring, and it's a longer time frame for hiring. But it's in the works. And as always, like, especially for, you guys watching this chat, like, you're in the VIP. If you make a support request and you don't hear back, DM me on Twitter if you want, or put it in the chat, but put some kind of reference. Like, it's not super helpful. If I want to double click on the people that care enough to like support us and watch us and help us build. I want to double click those from the top down. But you got to give me a reference. If it's a support ticket number, if it's your well tag, if it's the email that you use, don't post your email publicly, like do that in a DM or something. But just like, if you give me a reference that I can double click that and we can figure out and like understand why that's going on. There might be some, I've even seen instances where our emails out get blocked by certain corporate email servers. Like, there's 100 different reasons that could be happening. I want to double click on absolutely every and anything that's in our control. And one of that is the hiring practices, which I think, like, again, we're ramping that up and hoping to and looking to scale that aggressively. And I'm hopeful it'll get better. And I'm also, again, thankful for the patience and thankful for you guys helping us build in public. But when that happens, like, reach out with some kind of reference so that I can just double click it and solve the problem.
Adam, let me
Bitcoin Barber, bro, you've been going ham, dude. I dropped Adam's Twitter handle in the live chat. Send him a DM, bro. All right.
Well,
and then
really, it sounds
like that.
It sounds like you need to hire some people from the Simply Bitcoin chat. So if you're mad about the customer service, maybe you should work at Bitcoin at their customer service opening.
Oh man.
Come on.
I think they just want to work at Bitcoin well, man. I think that's what it's about.
I don't know, man. It's pretty hardcore culture.
Yeah, he literally said it.
Come on, Barber, DM me. Let's talk, baby. Let's talk. This is how Bitcoiners build, man. This is the way it happens. It's like, you see a problem, you got to solve it. Well, if you don't have X, like, then get me on Nostr, primal.net/Adam. You can just hit it, man. You can email me.
Drop your email.
It's like, let's go. Let's solve this problem together, man. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, Adam, we do want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, dude. You're an absolute legend. Guys, go to bitcoinwell.com. Best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. This is the founder and CEO, Adam O'Brien. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. As always, mad love, and I will catch you guys later.
Appreciate it, dude. All right, everybody, we have an incredible show lined up for you guys. We got the news segment, we got the culture segment, and it's going to be fantastic. So stay tuned. We will be right back in just a sec.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we got a hell of a show lined up for you guys. And we got some interesting clips from Balaji at Bitcoin Asia. He's been dropping the sauce. He's calling Keynesian economics Marxist. What the hell is that? What's going on with that? What? That's interesting. Moving that over to window, we did not say that. We did not say that. I'm just quoting what he said. We didn't say that. Anyways, here's the first clip, and then I'll play you another clip, and then me and Opti are just gonna, we're gonna talk back and forth. Smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show, and of course, make sure to check out the poll that's currently live on YouTube. Do you believe Bitcoin will have a parabolic Q4 in 2025? The majority of you guys, 64%, believe that is the case. If you're on Rumble, shout out Rumble. We just broke 10,000 subscribers on Rumble. We love the platform. It's fantastic. Subscribe, smash that like button. And of course, if you're watching us on X, we love X. We love Elon. Smash the like button. Give us a follow. Give the Simply Bitcoin account a follow. Give Opti's account a follow.
No.
Give Opti's account a follow. Opti's the anti-influencer. Opti's the anti-influencer.
I didn't choose influencer life, Nico. It chose me.
All right, everybody. Well, let's check out this clip from Balaji.
This is when Bitcoin wins, real estate falls in real terms, and people stop actually, using houses as an investment, and they invest in Bitcoin. They hold Bitcoin. Really, they store value in Bitcoin. In houses, apartments, that's for utility.
So, I mean, this is something that we talked about yesterday, right? We made a very solid point about this. It's just incredibly obvious. Housing should not be seen as an investment vehicle. Housing is meant for to live. You need a house, right? Like not all of us, are like Opti who just, roam the streets at night. A lot of us want to live in a house.
I got a cardboard box under under the Miami overpass over here.
I'm just butthurt because Opti moved out. I have not forgiven him for that. But it made me very sad. I actually even put a memorial picture in his room and everything.
Oh, dude, should I go find that?
Anyways, so yeah, Opti, let's talk about this because we were talking about this yesterday, but it's a point that I want to keep hammering home because I think one of the biggest issues that people are feeling in society is like, dude, I can't afford a home. I can't afford rent. Like, what is this? You guys are talking about buying Bitcoin, dude. I can't even make rent this month. Like, shut the F up, right? So yeah, Opti, I'm gonna pass it on to you, dude. Like, what are your thoughts on this, bro? Because this is something that has disproportionately affected our generation the most. We showed you guys a chart yesterday that the average home buyer is now 40 years old. 20 years ago, it was 30 years old. Like, that's not normal. If the world is getting progressively wealthier, if productivity is increasing, then, like, why is that not reflecting in society, right? And I love Jeff Booth's quote, which I think is the most fitting, which is the natural state of the free market is deflationary. And we are not seeing that natural state of the free market. And the only way that you can see the natural state of the free market is if you have exposure to Bitcoin. If you have exposure to exactly, right? Work harder, put your bow tie on, firm handshake, look them straight in the eye, hand them your resume, and boom, you'll get a house. Yeah, that doesn't work anymore, man. Anyways, Opti, quick take on this, and then I'll play the second clip by Balaji.
Yeah, I mean, just don't rent and live in a cardboard box under the overpass and stack sats. This is
not true.
No, I'm trolling, guys. I'm trolling. Look, what we're seeing right now is there is a lot of economic trouble going on in the world, and anyone that is gaslighting you that, oh, the economy is better than it's ever been. Like on the street here, like in real life, it is not better than it's ever been. Yeah, maybe the numbers are saying it's better than it's ever been. And reminds me of the Balaji tweet that I brought up the other day, of this idea of, at the end of the Soviet Union, the economic numbers were all basically fabricated, and it would make you believe that we are in the best economy ever, until it wasn't, until it blew up and they couldn't lie about it anymore. And so there is a lot of people struggling right now. And I do feel for everyone out there, because look, if you're a Bitcoiner and you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, then you obviously had some excess capital. You had a good job and you were able to live below your means, and you were able to save in Bitcoin. And now your savings, whatever you put in, whatever dollar amount you put in, or fiat local currency amount you put into Bitcoin, is probably higher now than it was back then. And so yes, we did kind of quote get lucky, but it's not being lucky. It's just understanding that there was a problem and you started saving in Bitcoin. And so when you talk to a lot of Bitcoiners right now, I would argue that most Bitcoiners aren't really feeling the economic pains that Main Street is feeling, because we've been saving in Bitcoin. We're saving in a better denominator than everyone else. We're saving in better money. And so, yeah, you are probably, seeing inflation and grocery prices and gas prices go up and rent go up, but you have a good savings. You have, a good little padded Easter egg there, or sorry, nest egg, where you're not really too worried about it. But if you are one of the people that are newer to this space and you're just dipping your toes into Bitcoin, you're probably wondering, hey man, like one Bitcoin's 100K. I can only buy, $10 of Bitcoin a week. Like I got to pay rent. I got to, buy groceries. I got bills to pay. But saving $10 of Bitcoin is better than not saving anything at all. Or saving $10 in Bitcoin is exponentially better than saving $10 in fiat. Like you just can't do that. So yeah, I mean, look, there is a lot of struggles going on right now. The economy is hard for everyone globally right now. We are in a very interesting and potentially dangerous time right now. And so, as we know, Bitcoin price is going to go up. Everything divided by 21 million. Like, if you are newer in the space and you have a choice between making a decent stack in Bitcoin or buying a house, I think it's a delayed gratitude moment. Unless it's like you're like 60 years old and you've been working your whole life, and the one thing you want is a house for you and your family. Like that's a totally different conversation. But if you're one of the younger generation, what was the metric, Nico? Under 39. Like if you're under 39 right now, dude, forget that house. Like just stack Bitcoin and you'll be able to get a house very soon.
Dude, I'm on that BitPain tip, bro. I'm not buying those bags. I'm gonna rent. And that's what I'm gonna do, because it just doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense for me to part with my Bitcoin to buy these overinflated housing prices. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that as a Bitcoiner. So I'm going to rent. And eventually those housing prices are going to go down, and then I might, dude, honestly, renting is pretty dope. Like it's
bro, live in your mom's basement and stack Bitcoin.
All right, everybody, let's check out the second clip from Balaji.
The second passport is more important than the first home. Okay. That's to say, being able to get to a place that respects property, and that, for example, in El Salvador, a UAE, Singapore, something like that, a place where, or maybe Hong Kong, that's your decision, right? But basically, to get to a place that respects property rights is very, very, very important, right? I'd say those three are good, and there's other small states that may also be good. Singapore, Dubai, El Salvador, I think are going to do very well this century. And they're respectively in 3 time zones, right? Americas, EMEA, and Asia. And Dubai and El Salvador are the most scalable because they've got enough land to recruit. Singapore can't scale as well, but there's other places that might be like it.
So that's a really good point, right? And this kind of goes into the thesis of the sovereign individual, right? At the end of the day, guys, the most important vote you can make is voting with your feet. So he was talking about the importance of a second passport, the importance of mobility. And this is the freedom that Bitcoin gives you. Bitcoin gives you if you take Bitcoin in self-custody. That's the caveat, right? If you take Bitcoin in self-custody, it gives you the freedom to go to a more favorable jurisdiction. If you don't like the jurisdiction that you're in, or it's becoming totalitarian, or it's not becoming business friendly. Like we saw this during the pandemic in the United States, like New York and California. Like I'm not trying to give a political opinion here, but let's just say like they weren't very business friendly. So what happened? The natural state of the market happened. A lot of people left California, a lot of people left New York, and they went to Texas and Florida, where, you know, it was a lot more friendlier for businesses. And at the end of the day, guys, like the government doesn't run the economy. Businesses, small businesses specifically, entrepreneurs, they're the ones that are taking the risk and creating prosperity for society. And we've seen this throughout time. Like the last century is an amazing example of this. You had the United States and you had the Soviet Union, right? And the United States wasn't a complete free market economy, but it was a much more free market economy than the Soviet Union was. And look at what happened to the Soviet Union, right? It ended up ended up collapsing. And again, it has nothing to do with ideology. It has nothing to do with, politics. I mean, you could say it has to do with politics, but I'm not looking at it that way. The way that I'm looking at it is the more, and this is like, don't trust me, verify. The more prosperous a society is, the more free a society is. And the reason is for that is simple. Like if you have top-down control over an economy, you're not going to get the price signals. You're not going to be able to properly allocate capital as efficiently as millions upon millions of individuals taking signals from the market. It's as simple as that, right? And that's what creates prosperity, right? And as a Bitcoiner, you want to move to those countries that are prosperous. You want to move to those countries that protect private property rights. You want to move to those countries. You don't want to live in a country that's chaotic. You don't want to live in a country that's not business friendly. You don't want to live in a country that is totalitarian. It's not great. Like name me one totalitarian society that is prosperous. Name me one. Doesn't work. Name me one society that has had a top-down economy that is prosperous. Name me one country. Name me an example of that ever happening in history. And you could say, oh no, but Nico, hold on, China. And I would say, okay, China has a very, very powerful state, but they have a free market economy, right? And then you could bring up other examples. It's like, no, but Nico, hold on. There's other European countries. And this is like, yeah, but they have free market economies. The free market economies is what's powering the prosperity of those countries. So you have this tremendous power as a Bitcoiner to vote with your feet now. It's a tremendous power. We've never really had that before, right? Like back in, you look at case study after case study, right? The world wars, right? If you tried to leave, right? And you let's say you're a certain ethnic group and you're being persecuted for your religious beliefs and whatnot. The first thing they'll do is freeze your bank account. And then if you try to cross the border, what do you think the border guard's going to do, right? That's the first thing that's going to happen. Like I was talking to Peter Schiff at the Bitcoin conference, and he was like, "You see this gold necklace, this gold bracelet that's worth $20,000? It's real. I can carry it." And I look at him like, Peter, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to take that gold bracelet from you. The men with guns are going to take that gold bracelet from you. But this is where Bitcoin kind of moves the balance of power, because all of a sudden you can write down a 12-word seed phrase, or you can memorize it, and you will memorize it if you're in a pickle and your family's future depends on it. Trust me, you will do that. And you can store, theoretically, millions, billions, trillions of dollars in your mind, right? That is extremely powerful. That's never happened in human history. Think about the alternative. What is the alternative? You gonna strap gold bars to your person? You're going to strap cash to your person like the Wolf of Wall Street, right? Like there's only so much cash you can take with you, right? They are going to, trust me, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to stop the outflow of capital. That's the capital controls. It's one of the first things that happens when a society starts to become economically unstable. That's one of the first things they do, right? So again, Bitcoin gives you the most powerful thing. Like I would say, like one of the most powerful things ever, which is why I'm so hopeful about the future of the world. It gives you, the individual, to vote with your feet and go to the country that treats you best. And this is the theory from the sovereign individual. The theory of the sovereign individual is basically politics are going to become irrelevant as information technologies become more adopted. As people seek their own information sources, like what you guys are doing right now. You guys are listening to Simply Bitcoin. You guys could be listening to legacy media behind me. You guys could be listening to CNN. You guys could be listening to Fox News. If you are listening to those channels, you live in a completely different world than if you are digesting and doing your own research. The same applies to money. We are going to reach a point in the next 10, 20, 30 years where a critical mass of the population is going to say, you know what? This fiat money just doesn't do it for me. It just like this 3%, like why does money need to lose purchasing power to function? I don't understand. And then they're going to see Bitcoin and they're going to be like, wait a second. I transitioned to a Bitcoin standard and now all of a sudden housing isn't getting more expensive. It's actually getting cheaper, right? Like what the hell is that? And of course you're going to have reactions. You're going to have reactions because there's a tremendous amount of power that comes from being able to issue money, right? And this is where what Balaji is saying hits. This is where, you know, you decide. And I've met so many Bitcoiners that are saying like, Nico, like I moved to El Salvador. Me and Opti were on the verge of doing that last year with this last election. I mean, our industry was getting persecuted. The industry leaders were getting jailed. Like self-custody was under attack. The mining industry was under attack, right? We're one election away from being in the same exact situation. It's the same thing. Like you guys have to understand what is happening here, right? But again, Bitcoin is about the individual. It's about you, right? When you put Bitcoin into self-custody, listen, it's like have you guys seen the meme with the dog in the house? And the house is on fire behind the dog, and then the dog's in there, and then it's like everything's fine. And then have you seen the meme of the guy on the bus? You know, and the world is like burning on fire behind him, and he's like, I'm fine. I have Bitcoin in self-custody. It's the same concept. Like the political situation. Here's the thing with fiat money. With fiat money, you're forced to care about politics because the money itself inherently is political. But Bitcoin, it's rules without rulers. It's apolitical money. The consequences of a Bitcoin standard are extremely political, but Bitcoin itself, the technology is neutral. It can't be manipulated or corrupted if it stays decentralized and secure. So you, as a human being, you're going to get to a point where you say, hey, you know what? Like, I live in this country or I live in this country. I just like, this is bat poo. This is nuts. Like, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to El Salvador. I'm going to go to Singapore. I'm going to go to Dubai. I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to go to Texas. I'm going to go to wherever fits, whatever fits your lifestyle and what you're about, right? That's the power of Bitcoin. And that's what Balaji was saying. Anyways, Opti.
Yeah. It's funny. I was literally having this conversation with my sister, and I don't go on full Simply Bitcoin rant with my sister. She already knows that, I'm outside. She doesn't even know what Overton window means, but that I'm outside the Overton window. She's like, "Yeah, you're my crazy brother." But I was telling her I haven't caught up with her in a little bit, and I called her. I talked to all my family this like a week ago, and so I was like, you know what? I haven't talked to my sister, so I'll give her a call. And I was on the treadmill. It was like raining, so I was getting a workout, and I was talking to my family. I was killing two birds with one stone, right? And we were catching up. And she was asking me, we were talking, she's asking me like, how much are you paying in rent down there in Miami? And guys, I don't live in a cardboard box under the bridge. All right. That's just a bad joke. And I was telling her the price, and she was like, oh my God, that's so expensive. Like, you can buy a mortgage with that. And I was literally like, yeah, but like, I don't know where I want to live yet. I'm not trying to be, strapped down with a house anywhere. And I've said it before, I could, rent it out and all that stuff. And I did the short, like, yeah, it's just, I don't know where I want to live. I don't know where I want to settle down yet. She's like, what, you're not going to be staying down there in Miami forever? I'm like, I'll probably be here for a while, but forever, I don't know. And anyways, that whole conversation if Nico has his way, that whole conversation just reminded me of that talk I had with my sister. And without going into all of the details and of course, like historical context and like my philosophical, ideological bents about it, I was just like, yeah, I don't know where I want to stay forever. And she's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But when you come from like a Bitcoiner's perspective, like it's a no-brainer, especially if, Larry Fink said it yesterday when I played on the show, or was it yesterday? Maybe 2 days ago. Like if you are afraid of your government seizing your property, if you are afraid of your government debasing your currency, then you're very obviously a Bitcoiner. And as much as I keep joking, and I'm pretty serious about it, but I everything I do is a joke. I'm the Simply Bitcoin jester here. I really do believe, like, I want to be in America, but you never know what's going to happen. And like Nico's saying, look, we maybe got away with 4 years here under Trump that it's going to be favorable for us. People could, argue about that and say that's up for debate. But if things do go the wrong way, like really, really bad, things could get a lot worse here. And the U.S. has the most to lose in regards to losing control of the money. And as a Bitcoiner, we've all read, we should have all read The Sovereign Individual here. I know Nico talks about that every single day on the show, basically. But the thesis is very simple. As we go further into the information age, as the powers that be are disintermediated because we have the tools for sovereignty, for personal freedom via the internet and of course Bitcoin, they will lash back and they will try to gain the control that they lost. And the more they lose control, the wilder these power grabs may become. And so just having that optionality is super important to me personally. And, I said all that with my sisters, like, I don't know where I want to live yet. And that's, you can break this down in however you want. But going back to that Balaji tweet, guys, we've said this so many times on the show. I have never heard, Keynesianism is pure collectivism or however he framed it in that tweet. But we all know one of the tenets of, a very famous manifesto is, and it's seizing control of the banks here, of the central banks. This is one of the main manifestos here. So we could argue that we've, and I hate to do the, like, we've never seen real capitalism, but you could argue that we haven't been living in a capitalist society for a long time because of the central banks around the world. So, things are changing in real time and things are evolving and iterating. And I think the best way to protect yourself as we move further into the digital age or the information era or the fourth turning, however you want to frame it, whatever kind of, connects with your psyche, the most important thing you can be doing is optionality and holding your money in a system that isn't fully intertwined with the traditional financial system. We know what they'll do, aka what happened in 2008. Like if you're holding your money in the banks, as retail, you're not in the club, and they will basically, write you off and you are not going to get any of your savings. So I am trying to, as best as possible, keep my options open as much as possible. And for me, that means just saving in Bitcoin, just holding Bitcoin, living a normal life and providing you guys value as much as possible, and owning nothing except for Bitcoin and being extremely happy. So look, all of this is like, you can right side of the bell curve all you want. It really boils down to, look, you want to have as much Bitcoin as humanly possible, or as much Bitcoin as you can get your hands on and store and you don't want to leave them in third party custodies. You don't want to leave them on exchanges. You want to hold those keys in cold storage, preferably air gapped, backed up, because you never know what's going to happen, man. We've seen this throughout history. We've talked about this constantly. Governments, all they want to do is take your money. They'll find whatever ways they can to take your money. So protect yourself. This is what it's all about. Protect yourself. Be healthy. Be smart. Things are only going to get crazier.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We still got the culture segment. We'll be right back in just a sec.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, everybody, we are back. Opti, it's been a hell of a run. It's been a hell of a year, bro. Should we tell everybody?
About what?
The rebranding, renaming.
Renaming? We're renaming the show?
Yeah.
Well, I'm learning about it. Tell me about it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, officially, we are going to be known as Simply Fiat from now on. Nice. Yep, we got an offer from Augustin and Christy Lagarde, and Opti couldn't resist it, and he signed the contract. He signed the contract without me knowing, and this is where we are. This is where we are. It's quite unfortunate. But Opti, Opti's his own man, and he makes his own decisions.
Hey, Nico, I know you're trolling here, but bro, and we did a whole curveball here. I think the chat's still freaking out about renting versus buying a house. So,
all right, let's talk about it.
I guess bro, why is this the most controversial topic we've ever brought up?
Because I think it strikes, like, we did a poll on it yesterday, and it was like, I think 60-40, 60% rent, 40% buy. I think it strikes a chord to people. So I'll give you guys an example. Marty Malti, I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. One of the first people to like email Satoshi. I introduced him in Lugano at Plan B, Tether's Bitcoin conference in Switzerland. It's fantastic. Highly recommend you go. And I introduced him. I didn't know who he was. And the name of his panel was My Pizza Story. And
wait. I'm pretty sure it wasn't pizza.
Whatever, the pizza story. I don't know. And I didn't know who he was. Right. And, I introduced him and I did the whole MC thing. And I watched the presentation. That's what you do. And, I remember he was like, I bought my first flat for 100,000 Bitcoin.
Holy snaps.
It's like if I kept that Bitcoin today, I'd be the
100K?
I would be the 8th richest man in Finland. He said it just like that. And you speak to some of these OGs, them talking about selling 100 Bitcoin to buy, you know, something or whatever. They always regret it. You could see it in their face. They're like, why did I do that? And if you just do the math, you're like, okay. And Jack Mahler's actually made a video about this the other day. He's like, my dream house when I got into Bitcoin, it was 100,000 Bitcoin. Then 4 years later, it was 1,000 Bitcoin. And then 4 years later, it was 100 Bitcoin. And then 4 years later, it was 10 Bitcoin. And then now, you know, the average home is like 4 Bitcoin. Where do you think it's going to be 4 years from now? It's not going to be 4 Bitcoin. It's probably going to be like half a Bitcoin, right? So I think that's the lesson there is, you know, you can do whatever you want with your life because there's something that comes with home ownership that's psychological, right? You don't have to deal with a landlord. It's yours. You know, even though you still have to pay property tax. But there's something about home ownership that you feel good about it. And like the renting aspect, it's like, it's not yours, right? But if you do the math, like it works out. It really does work out. Because what are you going to do? You're going to put a lump sum of money into a house, right? So a mortgage into a house. Do the math real quick. So let's say I'm throwing numbers out here just for the sake of the conversation, but let's say you want to live in a you know $1 million or $2 million home, right? Who the F has that type of money these days, right? Probably costs you like 10 grand a month to live in a $1 to $2 million home, maybe 5 grand, maybe 7 grand, right? And then you just do the math, right? I'm going to do the math real quick in the background, right? So let's say you're paying $7,000 a month in rent. You multiply that by 12. That's $84,000. Let's say that's a Bitcoin or less than a Bitcoin. And then you multiply that 84,000 by 4. That's 336,000. So that's 3 Bitcoin. But over a 4-year period, right? Let's say, you know, the house is $2 million, right? Divided by, you know, let's use the same price, 84,000. That's 23 Bitcoin. So the 23 Bitcoin multiplied by 84,000, right, is $2 million. But in 4 years, do you think Bitcoin's going to be at 84,000? Or do you think Bitcoin's going to be at, let's say 4 years from now, 400,000, 300,000? So that 23 Bitcoin multiplied by 400,000 is $9.2 million. Instead, if you would have rented, it would have cost you 3 Bitcoin. You would have 20 Bitcoin left over. And with that 20 Bitcoin and with a price of, what was it, 300,000? You'd have $6 million. And then with that 20 Bitcoin, you would have, if it was 400,000, you would have $8 million. So to live the lifestyle of living in a $2 million home cost you, you know, and this is not taking into account income. This is taking into account just if you use your Bitcoin. Because if you're making money and that money is enough to cover rent, you're not even going into your Bitcoin stack. That's why, as a Bitcoiner, you kind of have to do the math a little bit differently, right? You literally have to do the math a little bit differently. Because if you sell your Bitcoin today to buy that house, 4 years from now, that house is going to be the purchasing power of that Bitcoin is going to be 4 or 5 times as much. Why would you do that? If you can literally rent that lifestyle, you can rent the exact, you can live in that exact same house without having to buy it. You can rent it. And here's the thing, and this is what Balaji was talking about earlier. That's only going to happen for so long. Eventually, the market figures things out. The market always figures things out. Eventually, what people are going to realize is they're going to realize exactly what I'm telling you right now. That kind of doesn't make sense to buy that property if I can just buy Bitcoin, not have to pay property tax and not have to do maintenance and not have to deal with tenants. I could just buy it and put it in self-custody. It's going to outperform everything else. Why would I buy that as an investment property? That makes absolutely no sense. And there, at that point, you know, the market is going to start to adjust, right? And you're not going to have that knowledge arbitrage. And, you know, there it might make sense to buy because the renting doesn't make sense anymore, right? But right now, we live in this maxi fiat world where housing prices are so inflated because the money is so broken that it forces rich people to buy properties just to maintain their purchasing power. That, again, it increases the cost of living for everybody. That's what's happening right now. So I'm going to reference our boy BitPain. I'm actually going to pull up his tweet because his tweet is effing legendary. And I'm just gonna show it because I think it's wisdom, guys. You know, I love boomers, by the way. We have so many great Bitcoin boomers: Gary Leland, Larry Lepard, so many others. BitPain says, "Dear boomers, we can rent and stack Bitcoin longer than you can remain alive. Either you drop your ask or we'll save our bid for your estate sale." And then I just love this. You know, I love the responses. Boomers can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. This makes no sense. John Exit replies, "Stack away. I'm having my home raised upon my death, you entitled clown." By the way, boomers didn't have a say, just as you don't. We all have been played. Just don't play the victim. Thank you for making my point, boomer. So again, it's not about a generational thing or this and that. It's like, just play your cards right. Like, think about it. Like, do you think the guy that sold 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 Papa John pizzas, like, what could you imagine if he knew? It'd be crazy. Anyways, Opti, we've had a long show today. It's been a fantastic show. I've enjoyed it. Any final words and thoughts, my friend?
Well, I'm still just amazed that this is such a controversial topic. Obviously, there is no one size fits all for everyone. I'm sure, you know, you could make a case for anything here. But the real conversation is just your personal opportunity costs and what you value. Of course, value is subjective. So if you want a home right now and, you know, that's your lifelong dream, then obviously, you know, buy the home. We're not telling you not to do that. Now, in a few years, you might be kicking yourself because of the opportunity costs that you would have had if you saved in Bitcoin. Might make that look like a bad purchase. Now, in my case, you know, I live in an apartment. I like the fact that I don't have to take care of anything. I just call someone up, they fix it. I don't get charged anything, and I'm able to stack sats, and it's chill. You know, I get to be mobile. I get to literally pick up where I am whenever I want and go wherever I want. That's fine where I am at my point in my life. The TLDR, the short of it is, guys, you want to be able to save in Bitcoin, whatever your personal finances are and whatever your personal situation is. You need to be saving in Bitcoin. You need to have a nest egg that is built on Bitcoin so that you do have that optionality. Now, if you're set and you're made and you've had your house for a long time, yeah, your mortgage is probably cheaper than your rent, which probably means you can stack some Bitcoin. If you're under, 39 at this point, you probably can't afford a house. You probably don't have the money to put a down payment on a house. You probably need a loan. I don't know. I'm not here giving you financial advice, but hey, if you were able to get a small business loan, you're probably better off buying Bitcoin here than a house. But hey, I'm not your financial advisor, so I just find that this conversation is like, it really felt like a non-conversation to us, and then it's become like one of the biggest hot button topics we've had ever on whether you should be renting or buying a house. Look, I want to own a house eventually. Right now, all I want to own is Bitcoin.
Amen to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing. We love you all. We'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.
Wait a second. We forgot to give away.
You brought it back.
We forgot to do the giveaway. We forgot to do the giveaway.
That's funny. That's so
if you guys
funny.
are stay tuned, I saw it in the chat, and I'm not going to forget.
Yo, the
If you
fake
guys are-
ending, though.
If you guys are still tuned in, we're going to give away some sats. And I totally forgot. That was my bad. So let me pull it up. Guys, bitcoinwell.com/simply today. You get 3 tosses into the wishing well. And what's awesome about the wishing well is you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats every single time. We're going to be doing a live demonstration for you guys right now on air. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code with their Lightning wallets has won 230 sats. Again, you have to go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. Sign up. You get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin wishing well, and every single toss you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million satoshis. All right, that's the real ending. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Brand new episode, Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.